Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Arsenal Fan Circle, the podcast that you cannot live without. Season one for us, episode 28. And we have James Rowe on the telephone line with us. James, you're very
Hello,
welcome.
everybody.
You're very welcome on the podcast. Thanks for coming.
Thanks once again for having me on, and hello to everybody. I hope everybody's well.
Exciting times. Let's go straight into the news from yesterday. What do you think about the links to Pepe? We've had a bid accepted.
I think it's very exciting news. I think I know of him from his time in France. He looks to be extremely active on the ball, and I think with his attacking prowess and also the they're structuring the deal to suit the transfer payments and his age as well. He's only 24, and he can provide a very attacking outlet. And I think if we was to have an attacking quartet of Ozil, Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, and I think that's really promising, and that would provide great balance. But as we saw today in the friendly defeat at home to Lyon, the defence still needs to be worked on, and I think we would do ourselves a massive favour to start building a collective. I mean, you see Arsenal linked with lots of different names, but I saw it last season going back for many professional matches and European matches. We can't seem to work as a collective unit in the defence, and until we get that sorted, you can't necessarily see us challenging at the top end. But I think we do ourselves a massive favour to maybe start the season with a flat back four, and even, this might sound a bit strange, but even try to be a bit boring in defence. Don't try anything special. If you have to sit back, then sit back. If we've got an attacking quartet of Pepe, Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Ozil behind them, then that defence hasn't got to go forward, is it? Hasn't really got to surge on or make surging runs.
No, we have enough going forward. If we get Pepe, over the line, it's frightening. We have three players up front who could rival the three guys at Liverpool.
No, very good point. I think that is, especially in terms of pace. I think that's a great point. And I just think the defence would help themselves just to take a step back and maybe just try to be a bit relaxed on the ball and not always try to play the Hollywood passes or bomb forward. Just take it step by step. I think an interesting thing for me is Saliba has been brought for 30 million and loaned back to Etienne, and Daniel Ballard, who is, I'd say, the best defender in the under-23s, has gone on loan to Swindon Town. And you hope that they both gain a lot of experience going forward for the future, because they're two very good defenders. But I think with the outlay of Saliba, I'm surprised that he's gone back on loan. Nothing surprised me in football now.
I understand. I understand it was at his own request, I think, James, that he needs that extra season.
Okay.
He needed that extra season to prepare to be at a club called Arsenal, like Arsenal.
Okay, well, that's very noble of him. That's very very mature of him as well. But I just thought to myself, in a modern day football where you pay 30 million euros, which is an awful lot of money, and you don't get that player for another season after, then that's a little bit strange. But if it was at his own request, then that needs to be respected. And I saw a lot on my Twitter timeline about, couldn't beat Lyon and a disappointing defeat. But I want to say to the listeners tuning in what I said on my timeline as well, which is the real work starts on the 11th of August away to Newcastle. Yeah. It's a long old season, as we know only too well. We are fighting factually on three fronts. Okay, it's highly unlikely we're going to win the league, but the fact remains everybody starts on 0 points.
Yeah.
So we're fighting on four fronts, if you like, and the goal should be to win a trophy this season. It doesn't matter which one. We came very close last season with the Europa League. and hopefully we can have another crack at trying to win our first European trophy for what is now 26 years. And I'm confident that Emery will win a trophy in his second season. I think he'll get us over the line.
Yeah, I classify as Emery as one of the better coaches in world football, and most successful coaches do win trophies in their first 2 seasons. But also I heard mention of Mustafi being at fault for one of the goals today, and the fans are clearly have been tired of Mustafi and are tired of having Mustafi in the team lineup this coming season.
Well, when I think of Mustafi Ray, we paid £35 million for him, and I am certain that when we paid that money, that nobody in the club said, has anybody looked at his history? He couldn't make the grade at Everton and left the Premier League, went to Sampdoria and then on to Valencia, and Arsenal decided to pay €35 million for him. If a young player doesn't necessarily cut it at the level we are, in a lesser team, for example, then you're really asking for trouble in terms of bringing that player back, especially with the outlay. And there's also been rumours of them trying to get rid of Mustafi, with trying to sell to Inter Milan. I think it was the back end of last summer's transfer window. And that's what I say about Arsenal learning from their mistakes going forward, where they have to really think about the contracts they offer in terms of wages, in terms of length of contract as well. Because if you're dealing with a player who's not quite good enough and you also can't get rid of him, you wonder how long he's got left on his contract to, in terms of Arsenal still being an Arsenal player. And I think it's something that Arsenal have to think about going forward. Yeah. But I think booing certain players as well. You know yourself, Ray, through being an Arsenal fan for many, many years, there used to be a real brotherhood, especially for me growing up in the early 90s, being an Arsenal fan. There used to be a real brotherhood among Arsenal fans of mutual respect and looking after fellow fans, and respecting other people's opinion. And I'm fully aware that times change, but you can't really see much evidence.
We've had Bosman rulings, and we've had internet and social media since then, James.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm fully aware that times change. I really am. Yeah. But I'm just making the point that booing the player doesn't really help. I mean, I will openly admit to listeners, I was as a young man, I was never completely enamoured with the likes of Wiltord and Gilberto. It was only when I got older and understood football just that a little bit more, I realised how good they were.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare Mustafi to the likes of Wiltord and Gilberto, but booing a player as well, you've got to remember this is a professional footballer, and he's been on a journey since a young age, and having spoken to professional players and managers the last 3 years, there are some players that don't have a club at the moment that are just itching to get back into professional football, and everybody's on a journey. But regardless of what Arsenal will do, booing the player, that never really helps. And this is also a pre-season friendly. Pre-season friendlies are about gaining rhythm and gaining experience and being ready, because it's a long old season, as we know only too well. And you made a tremendous point on one of the last times we spoke about the opening fixtures we have and how many points we could maybe expect to get out of those games. And if we do not get as many points as what some people expect us to do, if they're booing players in pre-season, you wonder what the reaction would be should we not get the desired point total in our opening 6 games, for example.
Yeah, it will go up a few decibel levels for sure. But let's move on. Let's talk about the Pepe. We touched on it briefly on the start of the show, but Pepe is a kind of a game changer for this club, showing real ambition, James.
I fully agree. I fully agree. I think with his explosive pace, natural width, and age as well. If we can have that quartet of those 4 gifted attacking players working together, and strengthen the team as a collective, because it's about a collective. We've got to build a collective team together. I mean, we've got to hopefully pick the regular same 11 players for Premier League matches in particular. I don't think chopping and changing is going to do us very, very much good. And I think with the outlay as well, I mean, you would know more about Kroenke being based where you are, but the myth that he doesn't spend money, I don't really buy that, to be honest. Because if you look at the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette and those and the money they offered Ozil and the bid for Pepe, you, as I say, you would know more about Kroenke than me. I mean, for me about Kroenke, I don't believe that Arsenal are his priority. I believe that the LA Rams are, and therein lies the problem.
Absolutely.
Therein lies the problem. But the fact remains that he still sanctioned the 72 million bid for Pepe, and I think it would be very good for the club. I think this is a big season as well for Unai Emery, Ray, because as far as I'm aware, he's only signed a 2-year deal, and should things not go as well as everybody hopes this season, it would be for me a massive shame to have the successor of a manager who was in charge for 22 years, for his successor to only have 2 seasons. I think that's just a little bit unfair. And you need time to build a winning team. You need time to build a winning mentality. It doesn't happen overnight. I firmly believe that the criticism that Unai Emery received in some quarters last season was a little bit too much, because you've got to remember as well, why he has every right to challenge players. He has every right to pick a different formation, to try to see if the players that tell him that they can cope with a certain thing, that he might think not that they're lying, but he might think, for example, well, you've got to prove it. And you see it now. You see it now with Koscielny, as I mentioned last Sunday when speaking to you on the phone pod. Koscielny was far too comfortable under Arsene Wenger. Wasn't fit to play, but still played, and was lauded as a kind of lauded as a wonderful player for playing through pain barriers to represent the club. When he was prone to silly errors, silly mistakes, and for me, his body language, specifically last season when we conceded goals, was awful, absolutely awful. And I think he's. I saw a newspaper quote midweek that said, Koscielny said, this contract situation would have never happened under Wenger. Well, of course it would have never happened under Arsene Wenger, because Wenger trusted and believed in players that were not quite good enough. And Emery, realising that he has a 2-year deal, is finding out who's up for the fight and who wants to build and go forward, rather than those that just want to pick up a paycheck. So I think Unai Emery's well within his rights to do what he wants to do. And yes, he might have experimented a bit too much last season, especially with the likes of Crystal Palace at home and Wolves away. But you've got to remember, this is his first season in English football. He's learning all the time. I think we'll see a better side of him in the second season, and I think that second season will include winning a domestic trophy.
Compare Pepe to Zaha or Everton Suarez, and are we getting the better player, possibly?
Possibly, yes. I think Lille qualified for the Champions League. Lille finished second, and I think he scored 23 goals, had made 11 assists.
Yep.
Lille are not a big team. But they're also not a small team. But it's also a huge achievement for a team like Lille to qualify for the Champions League. And yes, they have played in the Champions League before, of course, a long time ago, and I also think in Europa League as well. But I think they were also not too long ago under financial restrictions in terms of players they could buy and things like that. And so they've built from the ground up. And I think League One is often spoken about in some cases as a farmers' league, and I disagree. When you've got the likes of Marseille, Monaco, Paris Saint-Germain, St Etienne, Lyon. These are not small clubs. They're clubs that have good quality players, and it's a good league. It's an acquired taste, but it's also a quite a decent league. And for a player to perform so well, I think we're getting a really good deal for his age as well. And you would hope that he would find guidance under Unai Emery. And I think that attacking quartet that we may have now, that's now fixed. There's no need to tinker with that anymore. Just focus on other areas such as improving the defence. But I think it would be a great buy, and fingers crossed it comes off early next week.
Yeah, for my money, the French league is pretty good because you get a lot of French players that go to the other leagues in Europe, and very few of them fail. You don't hear of too many failures, James, of French exports to other leagues. Can you think of any?
Well, it depends what you mean by failure. Just to confirm, Pepe also represents the Ivory Coast.
Yes.
And just to be clear, but it depends what you mean by failure. I mean, like for example, I think that football fans in this day and age they like to pigeonhole players and say, oh, he's not very good, or he's this, or he's that. A lot depends on the environment. You need to be happy. You need to be happy on the pitch. You need to be understood by your management, by your teammates, by the system you're playing in.
Your family needs to be happy.
Sorry?
The family needs to be happy as well.
Absolutely. And you need. I've spoken to players that have also changed clubs in the same country, where one particular player told me once that he made the step down, if you like, in terms of team ranking to get more game time. But it turned out that his stint at the club wasn't one that was fruitful because he hardly played, and the way they said they were going to play, they didn't. And he found it quite a difficult experience. So I think people really need to be aware of the things they say. And I mean, you look at the amount of money which is changing hands now in football for players, and you just hope that Arsenal can get it right. And I hope we can get the deal over the line. And I hope that we can go into the season full of Philippines that we're ready.
No.
And I hope it will mean that we'll win a trophy, because one thing I am a little bit concerned about, and I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom or anything, but one thing I am a little bit concerned about is that if certain targets are not met this season, that Unai Emery may well be out of a job, and I would find that to be absolutely awful, because you need to give a manager time. I mean, you need 2 seasons to follow on from Arsene Wenger. Is a little bit too less time, in my opinion. It's a little bit too little time. So I would, if I was the board, I'd look at giving Unai Emery possibly an extension for maybe another season, because you can't hang the future of Arsenal's manager on whether or not Arsenal qualifies for the Champions League or not. I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah, comparing Zaha to Pepe, Pepe has better stats in a lot of the areas. He's also younger than Zaha, and I don't hold much faith in when people talk about Premier League proven. I think that Pepe can adapt quite well. What do you think, James?
I fully agree. I fully agree. Good players can adapt. Obviously, some adapt quicker than others. And you think of the outlay as well. But one thing that I think also needs to be said, it's great that Arsenal are looking to pay 72 million euros for a winger. But you also have to remember that we are currently a Europa League team, and there are not many Europa League teams that are in a position to arrange such an outlay. So you wonder going forward, if we do not qualify for the Champions League or something along that line if we may not have to sell some of the big players. So it's a fine line, but I think it's great ambition to try and get such a player in. And we've got until the 8th of August just to fine tune any other players that they're looking at, and you hope that they can build a competitive squad and look to find a balance. I mean, you only have to look at the under-23s from last year, who are highly rated. Charlie Gilmore was sold to Norwich and subsequently gone on loan to Telstar here in the Netherlands. Daniel Ballard has gone on loan to Swindon Town, and Xavier Amachi has been sold to Hamburg, Germany. So you think about the outlay that Arsenal are putting in players in, but you must also not neglect our youth policy. And I think loan moves are very good for the young players, but it's about finding a balance of youth and experience going forward for the club as well.
So we're somewhat fortunate that Crystal Palace wanted a majority of the fee up front, and I think that brought us to focus on Pepe just in the last few days. Is that your reading of the situation, James?
Yeah, I believe so. I think Raul as well, Zanielli, the sporting director, has done a tremendous job. I mean, he was instrumental at Barcelona, and obviously that's not a very easy club to work in such a demanding environment. I think he needs to be applauded for the work he's done. And Ceballos as well, he's a tremendous player. I know of him from his time at Real Betis. I am, however, very surprised, Ray, that we have arranged a loan deal with a very good player with no option to buy. I think that's a little bit strange one for me. I mean, I interviewed his former Real Betis teammate now playing in Poland, Ivan Martin. He described Dani Ceballos as one of the best players he played alongside. And I think that Arsenal have done really well to get him in on loan, and I think he'll flourish under Unai Emery. But I also think it's a little bit strange not to have an option at least to attempt to buy should he have a successful season at Arsenal. I'm
hearing lots of different things on that, James. I've heard somewhere that we will have first option to buy him if it's successful and if Real Madrid are willing to part with the player next season. But that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a lot of different things with regards to that loan.
Well, I hope so, because I think he's going to have a very good season, and I really hope that he becomes instrumental at free kicks and corners, because he's capable of a tremendous delivery, and we need to really ramp up our attacking prowess from dead ball situations.
Yeah.
Because I think that would give us a real outlet. Because yes, we have explosive pace and counter-attacking. You saw that with the wins against Valencia in the Europa League last year and against Rennes. Yes, Lacazette scored a tremendous free kick away to Napoli. But I think Ceballos is a very good loan move, and we mustn't marginalise him in any way. And I think he's gonna prove a very good move. We've got some loose ends to tie up before the transfer window finishes, but I just hope we can build a competitive squad, Ray, and to hopefully fight on four fronts. As I said before, it's highly unlikely we're going to win the league, and I don't expect that at all. But factually, we are starting off on 0 points, and we're looking to see what we can do. But the 3 cup competitions we are in, I mean, back in 1993, we won both the FA Cup and the League Cup.
A double cup, double.
Cup. We were named the Cup Kings of the country, and I think with those 3 cup competitions, if we really go for it, I think we can win at least one, and I think that will be a successful season.
Yeah. What do you think of Ceballos? Do you think he is a player who can speed up the play in midfield, and we could be more of a counter-attacking team away from home if we get Pepe as well?
I believe so. I mean, as I say, I know of him from his time at Betis, and it's not just his pace, but he's also got a brain on him with a little bit of trickery, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still at a good age. and creates good free kicks and I believe corners as well. And I think he can offer us something different. I mean, if you think of the midfield partnerships that we can have now, you've got the likes of maybe Torreira and Ceballos with Ozil in front of them, or Xhaka and Torreira, or Xhaka and Ceballos, for example.
Just throw in a Guendouzi here and there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget Joe Willock too.
Yeah, he's done ever so well.
Yeah,
he's done ever so well. I think Willock will feature possibly in the League Cup and Europa League group games. But you only have to look at the quality of the teams in the Europa League and the results of the qualifying rounds already to see the teams that are potentially going to be in it. I mean, I was chatting with one Arsenal fan on Twitter the other day who gave his Europa League starting lineup prediction, which was full of youth. And whilst I admired his confidence, there are some really good teams in that competition. And if we take the group phase a little lightly, I think it could end up coming back to bite us in the behind. So it's about, in my opinion, playing our best team for as long as possible in the competition.
It's about a balance. I believe, James, it's about a balance. We might have to play more of the young players in that competition, because look what happened in the run-in last year. You know, we have to walk that tightrope a little bit and be careful in the early stages of the Europa League, I believe.
I think that's a fair point, but a lot depends on the group. For example, our last year's group was Force Club Portava, Karabag, and Sporting Lisbon, and you don't know who we're going to get this time round.
Absolutely.
And we drew at home to Sporting Lisbon, and then the remainder of the competition, losing in Borisov, losing in Brittany, and these types of results. Yes, we did manage to turn it around, but like you said, it's about having a fine balance, because we've got an opportunity to win in Europe again this season for the third season in a row, and you'd like to think it would be third time lucky in that respect.
Where do you see Dani Ceballos playing? Can he play an 8 and a 10?
I believe he can play in both, and I see no reason why Emery can't just see in what position he feels more comfortable to maybe try him out in both. Maybe try him out in that position, perhaps in the Europa League or in one of the cups. I mean, yes, we have Ozil playing as a number 10, who's a very high earner, and maybe you don't expect Ceballos to get in front of him in a Premier League sense.
Maybe away from home more so than at home. Maybe away from home, James.
Yeah, no, that's something we need to address, because our away form last season was very poor. You know, away defeats to the likes of West Ham and Southampton, and drawing with Brighton and Spurs, and getting beat by Wolves and Leicester. So it's really something we need to improve, and we need to be a lot more robust in that respect. But as we know, with all our experience, you know, it's a long old season, as we know only too well. And as I said, you made a great point on one of the last pods we spoke about our opening 6 games. If fans are booing a home defeat in a pre-season friendly against Lyon, who will be up there in the French league, okay, they might not win it, but they have an ex-manager in Sauvigno, by the way, that some listeners might well remember. Yeah, and that tremendous goal he scored against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which still remains one of the best goals I've ever seen from an Arsenal player. And it's about, you know, we have to remember it's a long old season. We've got opening 6 games that are very difficult. We've got to get as many points as we can, and I think we'll surprise. I really do. I can't see. We may well surprise getting a positive result at Anfield. You know, a North London derby at the end of August, going away to Watford, for example, which is never easy. Yeah, so,
and you know,
very interesting.
You know, James, we had that last season as well. We had surprise and decent and good results, but we also had tactically inept displays from Emery as well. So we're going to get a mixed next season.
Absolutely, and I'm not saying that Emery is without fault for last season. I'm not saying, yes, he did make some mistakes, but also the players have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And if you think of the last competitive game we played last season, I think that was the worst one for me, because we're playing in a European final for the first time in 13 years. And it's as if, when watching that first half, that players didn't really understand what was at stake. And we now go down in the history books of not having won a European trophy for 26 years, or what will be 26 years, and also having lost 2 Europa League finals, losing in 2000 to Galatasaray and now to Chelsea. So players also have to step up. But I think if everybody's on the same page and we can all work together, I'm confident we can win a trophy next season.
So James, I'm addressing some questions in the chat room with basically our conversation here. So everybody that's in the chats know that we're going to touch on your questions through our conversation between two mates here, myself and James, and everyone in the chat room as well. James, what formation do you see Emery adopting? What couple or 3 formations do you see him using this coming season?
I think he might, certainly if Pepe signs, I think it might be a 4-2-1-3 perhaps.
Yeah.
Where you would have maybe, for example, Xhaka and Torreira in the midfield, and then Ozil in front of them, and then Lacazette in the middle, Aubameyang on the left, and possibly Pepe on the right. Or they could switch. Wings in that example. I think he'll try the 3-5-2 again as well to provide natural width. But I think it'll be good for the players to be subjected to different formations. And you also have to remember, Ray, we had a 22-match unbeaten run last season.
Yep.
You know, we were unbeaten from August to December, and I think a lot of people forgot that. And if you think of how much we missed Rob Holding in particular, I mean, I think when he's back match fit, I think we'll see a huge difference. I mean, I watched him. I remember watching him play in the home game against Sporting Lisbon last November. And yes, it wasn't the most dynamic game you'll ever see, but the strength and the power of the Sporting Lisbon midfield and attack, and he met them perfectly with judging the pace on his passes and getting his body to shield his body in front of the ball to play it out from the back. I think when Rob Holding comes back, I think we'll see a big difference, and really looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, I think people either choose to gloss over that using a lot of luck in the narrative, or they are taking it at face value. We went 22 games unbeaten, and that was with Rob Holding and with Bellerin for a large part of it as well.
Yeah. And Rob Holding played, I think he was never present in that run in particular. And obviously he gets injured, and then subsequently after that, I think we had after the Manchester United game, I think we had Calabac, and then going away to Southampton and losing. But it's a collective effort at the end of the day, and but I for one will be really, really pleased to see him back. And I think with a flat back 4, I think ideally, I'm not sure if we'll get Kieran Tierney in, to be honest, but we'll just have to see. But I think a flat back 4 of Leno, Bellerin, Socrates, Holding on Monreal, I think that would be good for the start of the season. And we'll just have to see how things go.
Well, I for one think that we will get Tierney in the end. But a question for you is, let me go through why possibly we are favorites to get Pepe, and I have some compelling arguments. So hear me out here, James. I think that he's not really interested in Napoli because of he's seen Koulibaly's situation in Italy and the whole racism. So I don't think Pepe sees Napoli or Italy as a destination for him. I'm just trying to make a case here for why he would choose us over these 3 clubs. Manchester United is a big name, a big club, but it is very poorly run and has not a great coach in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who has been found out last season. And then finally, my persuasion for Liverpool is it's going to be so difficult for him to break into that top three in Firmino, Mane, and Salah. And I would see Arsenal attractive if I was Pepe because of the French-speaking players, and he sees that he could play with Laka and Aubameyang. What do you think of all of those arguments that I've just made, James?
I think they're very good points. If I can make a quick, if I can just make a quick point about Koulibaly, I recently interviewed a player, Brian Himalainen from Dresden in Germany. He played with Koulibaly at the Belgian team, Genk. And he was telling me about Koulibaly, and he was saying about not just about him being a tremendous defender, but also having a fantastic temperament and being a wonderful, humble human being. And I think with the horrible hatred that Koulibaly has been met with, I think he's dealt in a tremendous way. And I think you make some great points, especially about Manchester United being the draw, but obviously not being very well run, and that top three of Liverpool. But I think Arsenal are the front runners now, and we've got to try to get the deal over the line. We've got to try to show that we've learned from previous failures. For example, with Luis Suarez, with 40 million and £1 just to trigger an eventual bid, and for that to not come off, we've got to really get the deal over the line now, and hopefully we can do that.
Do you think, James, there could be some secret agents at work here in terms of Saliba? You had Guendouzi, Ceballos, you had Hector Bellerin. Do we have maybe Aubameyang, Lacazette, or again a Guendouzi as a French speaking? I do know that Pepe is an Ivory Coast international, but French speaking secret agent.
I think that can only help to serve. But you also need to find a balance. I mean, I remember one of my memories from last year was when I went to Arsenal Cardiff in January when we won 2-1, and then I was in the North Bank for that game, and I remember them lining up for an incoming free kick from Cardiff, and all I saw was hand gestures from certain players rather than the ability to shout out something that somebody else would understand. Yeah. So we really do need to find a fine balance, because I think a lot of people as well, I think they take at face value that, they play for Arsenal, so they must speak English. One learns quicker than the other, and as someone who's learned a foreign language as well, you need to apply yourself properly, and you need to really go full metal. And you even saw with Unai Emery last season, he gave everything he could with learning the language of the country he's working in. And by some quarters, he was criticised, which I could not understand for the life of me. But so we have to find a balance. We really do. If you have too much of a particular players that speak only one language, who's going to say that the rest of the defenders or the rest of the midfielders understand what's being said? You might think that that's the case, but it could also not be. So it's about finding a balance, really. But it's good that with the likes of Saliba and the young players we have as well, we're building a good framework for the future, and we have to keep being proactive about that, and just have to try to find a fine balance going forward in future.
James, do you think it's absolutely vital that we do get another defender, a central defender, in this window?
I think it would help. I saw today we were linked with a 2-year loan deal for Daniel Urugani from Juventus. When I was at the Champions League final in 2017, he was on the bench, and I believe he came on as a sub as well. And I think it's very proactive of Arsenal to suggest a 2-year loan deal. And I think if we could get, I might be a little bit ambitious, but if we could get a Pepe, a Rugani, and a Tierney over the line before the 8th of August, I think that would be the best transfer window we've had in a generation. I think it would be absolutely phenomenal, and that would really help us going forward. Wouldn't solve all our problems, but would really help us going forward in terms of the age of the squad and the positions of the squad, and then building a collective for the future.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I've gone on record as saying if we get a centre back of some decency, it's going to be a hell of a window if we get Tierney and Pepe in the door as well. And Pepe would be the marquee signing for this window for Arsenal, certainly. And who knows, he could be the signing of the summer for the season ahead. No, trying not to get ahead of ourselves. Nothing.
No, we'll just have to wait until that window slams shut.
There's no ink on the paper, let alone letting the ink dry on the paper.
No, I just hope that we can build a competitive 25-man squad for the different cups that we're going to be in, and you just hope that we can start off really well. We've got difficult opening fixtures. But as you so rightly said, there are some fans that are not that can get a little bit too upset in the beginning. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we will finish where we deserve to finish. Like for example, last season we finished fifth last season, and we deserved fifth last season. Yeah. And for me, I've said it before on this podcast. People have said to me, "Oh, we lost Champions League in the last months of the season." As far as I'm aware, we lost Champions League last December with defeats away to Southampton and drawing away to Brighton, and those types of dropping points. That's when I believe we lost it, and going into the new year losing away to West Ham and that kind of thing. So we will finish where we deserve to finish, and we will reap what we sow. If I could just make a quick point on Martinelli, who I think we've glossed over a little bit. I've only seen touches of him, but for an 18-year-old, he looks to have a lot of swagger and a lot of verve, and I think it's a great thing that we are finally dipping our toe into the South American transfer market, because in my opinion, that's long overdue.
He reminds me a little bit of a Theo Walcott in the early years, James. His explosive pace and his touch.
But, well, I think he will go on. Should he get more and more game time, I think he'll go on to improve even more. And we've got to build brick by brick. It's going to take time, but I think we can look forward to we've always got to be optimistic. We are fortunate to support one of the greatest clubs in the world, and we've got so many special memories through the years, good and bad. But you also have to remember that we've won 13 league titles, 13 league titles, 13 FA Cups. We played in European finals. We won the Fairs Cup. Okay, we won the Cup Winners' Cup. We've won in Europe before. We all it's like a rallying cry, really. We need to understand what we are, in the words of the famous Rocky Road Castle. Remember who you are, what you are, what you represent.
Yeah.
And we can look forward to an interesting season, but we just got to stick with the team, and it's going to be full of ups and downs. So buckle up. But I think we're going to surprise a few people, and I also think we're going to be celebrating our first trophy under Unai Emery this season.
This season, great. Couple of questions from the viewers here, and I'll answer the first question, then you can answer it. London Old School wants to know if we think Emery is waiting for Holding to be fit again, rather than investing in a new centre back. I feel like we have to invest in a new centre back. What do you think, James?
I fully agree. Just to be on the safe side, you've got to remember that the best defender of the academy is on loan at Swindon Town.
Yep.
If you're smart, if you're, it won't happen because it's too late in the day and he's now a Swindon Town player. If we can't get a defender in, I would recall Daniel Ballard, but I think it's a bit too late in the day for that.
Yeah.
But I think just to be on the safe side, just maybe try to get a Rugani in on a 2-year loan deal, for example, or a 1-year loan deal, just to be on the safe side. I mean, it reminds me of, do you remember Sebastian Schillaci from...
Schillaci, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we signed him from Sevilla, and people often forget that when we signed him, I know this is going to sound silly for some listeners, but it is true. When Arsenal signed him, he was one of the best defenders in Spain at that time for Sevilla. Yes. He was, and he was very unlucky with being criticised to high heaven for lapses in concentration. But he was also a tremendous part of the Monaco team that reached the Champions League final in 2004. You know, so he was a very good defender, much maligned, and I think we didn't really see the best of him. I think he suffered a lot, very much a confidence player. But I think that we can, I think just to be on the safe side, just to get that one defender, that one extra body in, just to be on the safe side, because I expect Koscielny to leave. And then so you've got Koscielny leaving, and then hopefully you've got one more body coming in.
Yeah. So I think we can leave it at that point. I just want to touch on another thing that happened during the week. A very serious incident that happened in London where Mesut Ozil was attacked by basically a couple of thugs. What was your thinking about that? What do you want to say?
Disbelief, really. Disbelief. And I was born in London. I'm sure listeners can tell. And I obviously was in London many years through my life to watch Arsenal play before I emigrated to the Netherlands, and going back to London to watch Arsenal play. And you know, for the city of my birth and the city that I love an awful lot, to be having such a thing happen in that city is quite worrying, really. And I think Kolasinac needs to be lauded for his bravery.
Yeah.
You know, to really, you know, to stand up for your fellow teammate, and above all, to stand up for yourself. And you just wonder, you know, I'm sure there's so many reasons why these things happen. We can maybe go into that off pod or at a later time, perhaps. But just very, very pleased that neither of them were hurt, and that you know, they managed to escape unscathed in that respect, and we can be grateful for that, I think.
Yeah, and until you're in that situation yourself, you don't know how you're going to react, and really, you should think about that before you make comments on social media. I know you're a big, I know you're a big champion of owning your own words, James, on social media.
Absolutely. But I think as we know now, you know, with the pull of social media, people want to say or make light of things. I remember when I was a young teenager, and I remember my mother telling me that when things in the country are tight and there are cutbacks or austerity or, you know, more and more cutbacks, that people do turn to crime.
Yeah.
And I remember her telling me that. And I just think that this is what's happening in Great Britain now. You think of how divided the country is. And I mean, I'm still a British passport holder. I just deliberately chose to go and live in another country when I was very, very young, and I've been here ever since. But I still want Great Britain to do well. I still want the country to be. I still want the people in the country and family and friends to be prosperous and to live happy and content lives. And I think you just wonder with the measures that have been taken through the years that people are now thinking that their only way out is crime, when that really never pays.
Yeah, and people have misread and misunderstood the footage. I believe that Kolasinac did tell Ozil to drive away so that they could be safe. And perhaps Kolasinac's family was in the car as well with Ozil's wife as well. You know, so we really should get all of the facts before we make comments. And
absolutely. And you make a tremendous point as well, right? You never know how you're going to react until you're in that situation yourself. And as someone who regularly visits London for Arsenal matches from Amsterdam, you know, I'm also leaving quite early to get my flight home. But touch wood, I've never had any problems. But you're always you're always on your guard, kind of thing, and you're just pleased that they're both not hurt or not unscathed. In that they've come away unscathed, and hopefully they can put it behind them, and hopefully measures can be taken in the coming years. That there's more police on the streets, for example. I saw Boris Johnson in his opening speech talk about the powers of stop and search, which I think is very good. And I know that it's only a speech, but I think it's good to hear a Prime Minister being so proactive in that respect. And hopefully things will improve.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't like to see it happen, but high-profile figures such as Ozil and Kolasinac, brings attention to the issue. And hopefully the authorities can take measures to deal with it in the future.
Let's hope so.
London Old School says, should have rammed them with the car. Sayed could have gotten stabbed. Brave thing to do. Too much of this sort of stuff going on in London, and very sad to see. And London Old School is an expatriate as well. So.
But I'm sure London Old School often makes good comments. I'm also, as someone who was born in London as well, even though you don't live there anymore, you still have a pull to the city. You still want the people living in the city to be happy and to be healthy. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, Ray, and there was 5 million people living in London, and now I believe there's 8.6, 8.7. So you see in almost, I think, maybe in a few decades, the amount of footfall in the city and people living in the city, and it's just taken off like a rocket, I think, and it needs to be kept an eye on, because it's a very special city, and you just want the people living in it to be happy and above all to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. I'm originally from Ireland, and you always want good headlines coming out of your home country as well.
Absolutely, fully agree.
Well, we can let's draw a line under that unsavory point, but we wanted to call attention to Kolasinac in particular in his brave actions, and I always joke about Kolasinac being Ozil's minder, but he really was in this situation.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. And Kolasinac has also been criticised by some fans for his performances since his arrival, but he's a winger naturally. He's not a left back.
Yeah.
I think if you play him more as a winger, you'll see an even better Kolasinac. I mean, I remember when Schalke reached the quarterfinals of the Europa League and they lost here in Amsterdam. I think it was 2-1 to Ajax. And he was instrumental in that European run, but he was primarily playing on the wing. And I think if Arsenal try to find an outlet of playing Kolasinac on the wing and not as a left back, you'll see a big difference. Ray, it's been a pleasure as always to speak to you, and thanks to the listeners for all their questions. If I can just give a quick plug for my for my interviews with professional players and managers, you can check me out on @James Rowe NL. And you can also check the link on my Twitter bio to all my interviews for World Football Index. There's a few surprises coming up this season, which I won't divulge too much about. If you want to know who I'm speaking to and who I'm interviewing, then you just have to go to Twitter @James Rowe NL and click on the follow button, and you'll be able to keep abreast of some of the names I'll be interviewing this season.
All right, perfect. Thanks, James. I appreciate your time.
No problem, and I'll speak to you again soon, mate.
All right.
All the best. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So that was James Rowe, and always excited to have James on the show. Always excited to hear his input, and now we're going to call Mahir real quick. If you're on there, Mahir, give you a quick call. Just to tie up this show here. Are you there?
Yeah. Hey, guys. How's everybody?
Hey, Mahir, co-host of Arsenal Fan Circle here. So what did you think of the show that we just had there? All of the points James had.
James had really, he was in the nail on the head, basically. analysis of basically everything to do with transfers, down to the serious situation that happened with Ozil-Kolasinac, where a lot of fans were critiquing the two of them to say, this thing happened to them, haha, they make jokes, they make memes about it, but we don't condone violence. We don't condone those acts.
I understand, Mahir, I understand something similar happened to you during the week as well. Tell me how you were feeling in that situation.
Like, the funny thing is, we were driving. It's become so bad where you can't really even walk around freely without watching your back or seeing what's happening. So we're driving through town. We approach a robot, and I see somebody running along the bonnet side, knocking my mother's window. And my father actually said once we crossed the robot, there was somebody on the other side trying to open the door. And I didn't even see it happen within the blink of an eye, but luckily nothing serious, or on an extreme level.
Yeah, luckily you're safe, and everyone connected to your family is safe, and likewise with Ozil-Kolasinac and their family.
Oh yes,
we're thankful for that.
Yes.
So let's wrap up the show. Let's talk about the US tour and basically bring everything full circle here, as we are Arsenal fan circle. So what we saw on the tour was very, very promising younger players, and the experienced players not exactly stepping up so much, albeit we do have Aubameyang and Lacazette, who we can always count on. But defending-wise, we were not so great on the US tour, especially the Real Madrid game that I attended. We did go into a 2-0 lead, but we sort of capitulated in the second half when the going got tough, and we were back down to 10 men each, with Socrates getting sent off. What was your take on all of that? Did you see any highlights?
I did see quite a few highlights, and like you say, I would 100% agree with you when you say the youngsters were showing or trying to prove themselves so that they can get a place in the squad. I mean, we have promoted 3 youngsters, if I'm not mistaken, to the first team.
Yeah.
And they're basically showing us the passion that they have on wanting to play for first. And I fully agree with it. And like you say, Lacazette and some of the bigger players, Aubameyang, not turning up as much. But I have a feeling they've got something big in store for us this season.
I'm continuing today where we did lose 2 goals as well. So our defending is pretty shocking right now. We need to get that center. We need to get the center back in. We need to get Pepe across the line and Tierney across the line. And if all those 3 things happen, would that be a good window for you?
Well, yes, I think it would be a fantastic window. Fantastic. We can get Tierney, Pepe over the line, and centre back, and possibly even, somebody like Lugan, who we went to get with James.
Yeah. London Osco says we seem to be playing well first half of games and then crumbling in the second half, and that seems to be a little bit of a trend now, at least in the last 2 games of pre-season, Real Madrid and Lyon.
Raymond, it's because our defense is exactly the same right now. We haven't managed to get anybody out, and we haven't managed to bring anybody in. Yes, Saliba, but like I say, we need
defensively. We need recruitment in the next 10 days in defense.
I'm not just talking about a centre back. I'm talking about possibly getting somebody like Dani Alves on loan or a right back on loan, like for maybe a year, just so we get our feet on the ground. Then we've got Tierney, and obviously centre back of any quality. I think Lewis Dunk, if I'm not mistaken, moved to Leicester for about 30 million.
Yeah, Lewis Dunk is gone. We've missed a lot of possible defenders we could have picked up. Hermosa's gone. Lewis Dunk is gone. Comment from Yal. I have a comment from Yalce. Yalce, thanks for the comment. He realized what's happening when we crumble in the second half. Either the double pivot is changed or we lose Socrates to a red card. When Socrates got sent off, our double pivot was Mickey and Xhaka. And Yaltzi, I really wanted to keep Joe Willock on the field. It was very interesting to me. I thought it would be Mkhitaryan or Ozil who would be substituted, and it seemed like Willock was taken off. And that just showed me that Emery is not. Yeah.
I see Ceballos got a chance to play a little bit, so I don't know if you managed to catch those, catch a little bit of stuff maybe.
No. What it showed to me was that Emery is not fully confident in Joe Willock yet. I mean, I hope it's pre-season, but I hope I'm wrong. But that's what I'm seeing. But hey, you've got anything to sign off with? We're going to wrap up the show here at this point.
No, I just want to thank all our subscribers for following us and being part of, the familia, basically.
The familia.
And because they always ask questions and interesting facts that you may have missed out on, basically. And continue to support us every single week on the show with the host and yours truly as well. And all of our special guests, it's like they're becoming regulars. And with the amount of analysis, all the banter being passed around as well, and it's absolutely heartwarming.
So how gassed are we for Pepe to happen?
Really gassed.
Really gassed.
At this moment in time, probably a 9 out of 10.
So for all the reasons, hopefully, that I've lined up there, that Napoli's not attractive, Man United's not attractive, and while Liverpool is an attractive place to go to, is he going to get game time at Liverpool? And maybe he's thinking not. He won't be able to get into that team.
You actually discussed it with James. I saw that you guys discussed it for a little bit. How players actually look at the way a club is being run, if they're going to be given what they want. Like, if they want to play regular football, I'm sure he'd be playing regular football by us. Like, really, if he keeps the ground running, we've just made a steal, basically. We've seen a young player with loads of potential, loads of praise from everybody. Even though we shouldn't get a bit too hyped up right now, because let's just finalize it. These 3-4 deals over the line. I'm praying for a centre back. So that's about.
Let's get a centre back. Let's get Tierney in. We can play a flat back four. Danny Ceballos coming into midfield is a definite plus, albeit on a loan. He can speed up our play and he can feed our forwards. Hopefully, Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang. Yes, I'm allowing myself to smile a little bit, but I'll be grinning like a Cheshire cat if we get the ink dried on the contract, the shirts are held up, and this photograph's been taken. Exciting times ahead.
Definitely exciting times ahead. Like, I would love to see the double pivot of Ceballos and Torreira, to see if that works out, and then maybe have an Ozil in the middle of or in front of the two of them.
Yeah, there's so many things now that can happen in midfield just by adding Ceballos. It looks like Yaltzi wasn't very happy with the pivot today when Ceballos came on. That's why we lost a goal or maybe both goals because of that, Yaltzi. If you let me know who he was playing with. And but it's preseason. The big work starts on the 11th of August for us, and we go away to Newcastle. Hopefully we can get Tierney done and Pepe done, like I said, by the end of this month. And London Old School and Yaltzi, Noe, anyone else who's watching and feedback, that will give us a week to get a central defender, which we do need. I would be a little bit wary of going into the season with what we have right now.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. Everybody would agree.
We here at the channel are very, very happy for the new subscribers that have come on. We're growing, and if you like this, if you're watching this on playback, if you're just coming by and you stopped and watched the show, till the end. We do appreciate it, and consider hitting that subscriber button down there. The bell notification will let you know when we're going live or when there's a new video that's been dropped. But for now, I'm going to leave you with one comment that Yalci left. No, he did well. I'm saying he's not a defensive or complete midfielder. Our pivot was him and Hillock or Xhaka. Okay. So, yes, Ceballos is not a defensive midfielder. He is an attacking midfielder, right, Mahir?
Okay, so put him where, experiment and put him where Ozil is.
Yeah, put him in the 10 position. Put him in.
And then have Xhaka Torreira as our.
Or you play him with a Torreira and a Guendouzi, two players that are going to put the work in the 3 in midfield. We got lots of options. I'm very excited with this last few days. We've got lots of options going forward for this season. Number 8, Yalci says is a number 8. Very good, Yalci.
Okay.
All right, this has been the 28th episode of the first season. We're calling it the first season until the first ball drops in the actual Premier League, and then we'll go to season 2. But for now, we will love you guys and leave you. Right by here?
Yes, loving you guys.
Have a great week. Have a safe and a healthy week. Realize with the Ozil situation that life is precious, so enjoy every minute of it. We don't know how long we're going to be on this earth, but let's all stay healthy and all stay happy.
Exactly.
The Arsenal are working to get the recruitments in, I believe, and there is reason not to talk about Stan Kroenke, but there is reason to talk about Josh Kroenke now. He's the Kroenke we're going to be talking about moving forward. We are out of here, right, Mahir? Say goodbye. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Later. Come on, you gooners.